Today, activists are planning for a major rally and a march here downtown as part of a statewide shutdown that they're calling a day of truth and freedom, with no work, no school, and no shopping.
Okay, as many of you are aware, there's been a lot of protesting in the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Well, today is a day of truth and freedom for the cities of St. Paul and Minneapolis, and we are seeing protests around the cities. For example, this is a protest outside of the Minneapolis airport. Music now unfortunately. Fortunately, this also happened on this day. Applause now, just to give credit to Cam Higby. He's the one who captured this. That's his X account. And he also has a YouTube account, if you want to go subscribe to him. Now, according to journalist Cam Higby, he says, federal agents deployed tear gas in Minneapolis following a standoff and a crashed car. Protesters picked up the gas canister, and they threw it at the vehicle. More agents arrived shortly after. Now, speaking of gas canisters, there's been a lot of pushback against Chief Beau and his use of tear gas, or means to push back protesters if the protesters cross that line. Check out this interview.
At one point today, I looked up, I saw it playing on 3 different cable news channels of you personally throwing a tear gas canister. Take a look.
I'm in the gas. Get back. Gas is coming.
Gas on film. Gas on film. We're filming you. Gas on film, Trevino. Gas on film.
So, real quick, you might find this interesting. The video you just saw of Chief Bueno throwing that tear gas, that same day this happened. Court lifts restrictions on immigration officers' tactics in Minnesota. Now, why is that relevant? Well, it's for your benefit to understand. At one point, there was a court order to restrict or to limit how Homeland Security agents could defend themselves, but that got lifted. And the reason why it got lifted is because it's already against the law to use tear gas against peaceful protesters, but also to limit Homeland Security to defend themselves if protesters cross that line. That is also crossing the line from the courts to limit or tell Homeland Security how they can defend themselves when they already have policies and rules put in place. But here's why Chief Beau actually used that tear gas that day.
Sure. Well, what J.D. Vance, the vice president, said, he said it very well. If you look at that clip, what you see directly behind me are Border Patrol agents that had just been assaulted. One of them was spit on. As that individual that spit on a Border Patrol agent was taken into custody, several other suspects came in and tried to intervene physically, both body checking Border Patrol agents as well as physically wrestling with Border Patrol agents to try to free the original suspect that spit.
So, you can leave your comments down below how you feel about this. And I'm sure many of you can recall over in Chicago, the same thing pretty much happened. And Chief Beau had to report to a judge every single day and talk about times where tear gas was used or pepper balls was used. That is just not what the job of a judge is to do according to both of these appeals courts, where it's the job of Homeland Security to make sure their policies are put into place. Now, this doesn't mean that Homeland Security can just do whatever they want and toss tear gas left and right. Again, there are proper protocols and policies. And as far as the situation, Chief Beau is noting that there are people quite literally in the background tackling or dealing with somebody who spit on them. And then this entire situation got pretty chaotic in general.
That, with a chaotic situation, objects being thrown, agents being boxed in by vehicles, it was probably past the time for myself to deploy that less lethal munition.
Yep.
And that term less lethal is just that, less lethal. If we didn't have less lethal, what would we be left with? I think that's a question that a lot of these media, and they seem to leave that out. Do they want fisticuffs and guns? Or do we want to use less lethal to keep people safe, to keep our officers safe? And that's what we did in that particular instance. And guess what? It worked.
Okay, so leave your comments down below how you feel about this. Again, I always do my best to give you guys all the perspectives, all the talking points, so you understand what's going on. Now, if you're unaware, I also go live every morning if you're new here, and we cover stuff like this in detail and in real time. So make sure to please subscribe to my channel. Turn on your notifications. Make sure to please like the video. It helps out a lot, and I don't want you guys to miss a thing. Now, let's continue. So, today, during a press conference in St. Paul, this is what Homeland Security was reporting. Again, this is on the day of these protests.
Moments ago, a group of agitators, a U-Haul van filled with shields. Oh, it's not coming up. All right. Shields and gear decided to come over here to the Whipple building and block traffic. They are currently trying to impede us from getting out of the building and going and do our mission. I'll tell you right now, they're going to fail, because no matter what they put up in front of us, we are here to do a job to protect this community, to protect Minnesotans, and to keep the criminal illegal aliens off the street and put them where they belong, back into detention, and remove them from this country.
So, there's that photo during the press conference. And to my knowledge, I think this is the first time we've seen the use of like shields or blockade type tactics for these protesters who want to possibly cross that line. So, I did some research, and I actually did find a couple of videos.
Plus lost children or trafficked across that border. Now, when we've got the news media, children, I'd certainly love to hear more reporting on the 300,000 lost children. How about the 14 that we recovered at that pot farm a few months ago in Camarillo, California? The 14 lost children trafficked across the border that were found working illegally on a pot farm in California. Very little reporting from the Minneapolis news media here. I didn't really hear much from you guys. And then some.
Okay, so let me know what you feel about this. Again, this is in the location of the Whipple building, which is that federal building you oftentimes see protesters yelling at like federal agents who are leaving a federal building. That would be this location. Now, I noticed we can actually cross-reference to see if there's any accuracy within the statements from IC. Here is a picture of ice out on a piece of metal. So, as you can see in the IC press conference, here's that image we were shown. It says ice out on that piece of metal. The same piece of metal we just saw in that video. So, I just like to cross-reference everything for you guys to make sure there is accuracy in the statements. So, I hope you guys can leave your comments down below. Let me know how you feel about that. Now, speaking of accuracy, it looks like Chief Boy has not been too happy with how the reporting is going down in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Check this out.
Some of the more heinous crimes against children that are trafficked across the border that ICE and Border Patrol saw daily back when that border was out of control over those past 4 years. I'll detail one for you, folks, that's truly heinous. Border Patrol agents there in the El Centro sector encountered a young child, was approximately 3 years of age. The child appeared to be not with his parents, with strangers.
Wow.
Agents managed to wake the child up after doing what is known as a sternum rub, which is a technique to wake someone up that may be induced by. As the child woke up, we understood the child's parents were not with him, and medical examination saw that this child had non-surgical sutures in his abdomen. Let me say that again. Non-surgical sutures in the child's abdomen.
And just to give you some context, I'm sure you guys have been seeing there's a huge back and forth narrative between like the 5-year-old. What happened with that 5-year-old? As far as did Homeland Security try to use the 5-year-old to get the parents of the 5-year-old, or did Homeland Security actually save that 5-year-old in order to protect him because he's just a child. That's what's happening. It's going on back and forth right now. I'm sure you guys are seeing it in the news. And if you are not, again, I go live every morning and we're going to be covering that topic.
He was being trafficked across the border in that condition. That's not an isolated event with the U.S. Border Patrol or ICE. We saw that many, many times. Drug children coming across the border, and guess what? Other than a couple of news outlets, I believe News Nation and Fox reported, nobody else would. Nothing on a child with non-surgical sutures in his abdomen, and nobody knows why.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm always very reluctant to play clips like this. It's some of the most heinous things you hear, but it's the reality of the situation. And Chief Bo, a Border Patrol, they deal with this every single day. And obviously, the news reporting, you're not going to hear about this unless you really look for it. So I try to do my best to show you guys things that sometimes is probably very hard for us to hear. But this is like the narrative battle right now in Minneapolis, as far, and really the entire United States, as far as how does Homeland Security deal with them children. This has always been a hot button topic. As many of you are aware, Tom Mann has always famously said, "We don't separate the families, we bring them together. If they all get deported together, they get deported. If they get to stay in the country, they get to stay in the country." But this is Chief Bo highlighting his distaste or dislike against the media who is not covering stuff like this. And again, for me personally, this is very hard to cover and even talk about or listen to. But this is a reality of the situation. We cannot play into our emotions sometimes because we don't want to hear something. It doesn't mean it's not happening. And that's just the truth of the situation here. Okay, so, like I always ask, please pray for these children. Please pray for the peace of this country, and peace in general. I mean, man, that was hard. I personally don't like to hear that at all. Again, I think a majority of you also don't like to hear this. But this has always been a back and forth as far as what is the truth, what is not the truth. And I think a lot of us are just simply trying to search for answers and know what is happening. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Just look at all the sides, bring it together, and again, it is very hard to find stories like that. You really have to dig deep for it. So again, leave your comments down below how you feel about this. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, or as much as you could enjoy it. Again, my job here is to try and see what is actually going on the ground. Cross-reference everything, whether from Homeland Security or from protester groups or activists, and I was already waiting to see what would happen. We were covering this topic like a week ago. Is there going to be this mass protest in the area? And we are seeing protests in St. Paul and Minneapolis now. As I make this video, it is very, very cold in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And as we know, bad weather sometimes can affect protesters or advocates who want to get out there and protest against Homeland Security. But oftentimes it's not like the biggest deterrent. But right now, with the weather being as low as it is, I am very curious what's going to happen tonight. And again, as far as the protesters with like those shields and stuff like that, to my knowledge, there hasn't really been any sort of clashes with that particular group of protesters or nothing like that. Again, those are just images we're currently seeing. But I don't know what's going to happen tonight. Tonight, it's going to be very cold, and as I make this video, it's going to be tonight in like 5 hours. So, again, make sure to please subscribe to my channel. Make sure to please like the video. I don't want you guys to miss the live streams because that's where we get a lot of the details really nailed down. And we can all work together to figure out what's going on. So, I hope I was as fair as possible for you guys. And I really appreciate everything. We are massive advocates for peace on my channel. And again, please pray for peace. We do need that right now. Thank you guys so much for everything. God bless, and we'll see you all.